Hello, my name's Dan Swearingen. I'm the COO of Autistry Studios Incorporated in San Rafael. And today what I want to talk about are plastic models as projects for our students here at Autistry Studios. As you can see, we have a lot of plastic models that students have built over the years and left with us. And they are excellent kind of beginner projects. The great thing about a plastic model kit is that everything is there. And what's good about plastic model kits is that, everything's there in the box. The instructions are there. What instructions for model kits tend to be very bad at is actually describing how you build a model. If you think about it, the instructions in a plastic model kit are very often put this part in, this is where it goes, and they give you a basic sequence, but they don't talk about how do you integrate painting with that, how do you integrate constructing the different sub-assemblies, what other tools might you need. I mean, they'll often list the tools, but they won't show you how to use the tools. So there's a lot of good skill building that happens with building plastic model kits. And I realized as I assembled this collection of models that statistically successful kits are represented by what we see here in kits we have left behind. Let me go through the different kinds, and I'll talk about, at the end, I'll talk about what I feel are good beginner kits. So first we have a Marine Amtrak. This was made by a student really as a beginner project because he was doing some other stuff and needed some skill building. We have a whole series of early Shermans. So by early Sherman, I actually am referring to a particular kit from a company called Tamiya. And the Tamiya M4s are, they're considered kind of crappy kits in terms of being historically accurate. However, they're very easy to assemble. And in fact, Tamiya kits in general are very easy to assemble. So here we have one that a student has taken and made into a diorama. This is actually on a big solid block of foam, so it's actually quite light. And what else have we got here? So we've got some M3 Stewarts. These are also from, I believe these are also from Tamiya. And the M3 Stewarts are also an easy kit to assemble. Another early Sherman, of course. The other kits that are really good are these Batmobiles. So what I love about these Batmobiles is they're actually metal kits. The body of the car is metal. Everything else is plastic. I love the shape. So this is the 1950s design, basically based on what was in the comic books. And what's really cool, it might be hard to see, is that in the back of the car is like a science lab. So there's like a microscope, and there's a little kind of semicircular workbench. These are great kits. And also what we're seeing here is that these are kits that were successful. We've had lots of students start kits, and we'll talk about what kinds of kits are not successful. For completeness, here's a 60s Batmobile. And you can see that this one looks something like the one from the television show in the 60s, but this is actually based on what was in the comic book in the 60s. And so some airplane kits, an F-22 and a MiG-29 kit. Here's a T-34 put into a diorama. T-34 is a Russian tank from World War II. And here the student made a diorama of a snow scene, and the tank is camouflaged in snow camouflage. Here's a beautiful little Bren gun carrier. This is it's a teeny tiny kit, and the student just did a really good job putting that together. And I'm not sure the focus is working. There we go. And that's just a beautiful little kit. Another Tamiya kit. Lots of tanks and trucks that students have made. The other genre that's really good and also is kind of a tie-in to a broader community are the Warhammer kits. So the Warhammer kits, there's lots of figures. There's also all sorts of kind of diorama building things that can be done. And these are actually ones that I assembled. Students tend to make those and take them home. So we don't have a lot of those around. The Ghostbusters ambulance. The Ghostbusters ambulance is an example of a kit that students are very attracted to and is extremely difficult to execute. This kit is complex. It's a bad combination. It's complex, and the actual quality of the kit and the fit of the parts is very poor. It's a very difficult kit to execute correctly. But the other thing I wanted to talk about is that once students have done some kits like this, they start to get more creative and move on to kind of their own ideas. And an example of that is this one here. So this one I call the Suburban Horror. It was also Storm and Norman's Revenge, I believe. So William Brent, who's an artist here in the Bay Area, offloaded a lot of kind of surplus stuff that he had, and he had basically a kit for this. He had kind of started it, and it's an HO scale, the house from the movie Psycho, and it's parts of an attack helicopter and parts of an M1 Abrams tank, and it all sits on an M1 Abrams tank, and then there's a turret from a Grant here on it. And what I want to show is, so this is a kit bash, okay, and so this is all different stuff put together, and this is starting to be a, now we're moving into something where the students are really making it their own. This is not just purely what was designed by the kit manufacturer. What I'm going to do now is clear the table a little bit and restart. And what I'll be talking about as I continue is going through and talking about the kinds of kits you can find today. And what I'd like everyone to balance is that when you're starting out, you should think in terms of beginner projects to build your skills, and then go for the kits. Right now, it's actually kind of a golden age for plastic kits. And I'll talk more about that as I come back. Just a moment, I'll clear the desk and I'll just cut to everything ready to go. All right, thank you for that commercial break. And what I want to talk about now is all the different kinds of kits that are out there right now, and then focus in on the projects that, again, we have found successful with students. So right now, it's kind of a golden age for plastic model kits. What's happened is 3D CNC milling machines and things that can very precisely carve and cut the molding necessary for injection plastic modeling. That equipment has all gotten much less expensive and much more precise. So going from 3D CAD drawing to a mold that can produce a very good part, and that manufacturing process. So China definitely is up there. Japan's been there for a long time. What's happening now is Central Europe is becoming a place where lots of excellent kits are coming from. So former Soviet republics and Central Eastern Europe, there's lots of excellent kits coming from them. And these are all someplace you should get to at some point with your students, but many of these kits are too complex. What I want to talk about are kits to stay away from, first of all. So, remarkably, kits of cars, most kits of cars that you can get in the United States right now, and I'm going to put the Ghostbusters ambulance in there too. These are kits that you should stay away from right now. And that's really sad. The students are very attracted to them. However, most of these kits were designed in the 1970s and maybe the early 80s, and the technology was not quite there yet, and the fit is generally very poor, and frankly, you need to be a fairly skilled modeler to get a good result out of one of these kits. You can get a really crappy result fairly easily. The problem is, again, the students are really attracted to these projects, but what I want you to remember is that table full of models, we didn't have a single stock car. And that's because in all the years I've been doing this, I have not been able to work with a student and help them deliver a stock car that looks as good as these. Trucks, again, very popular with students, but also just really difficult to build. After a student has a couple practice kits under their belt, then definitely let's go for these. The Ghostbuster kit. We have made a bunch. I have literally a stack of these in storage. In general, it takes a student 2 or 3 tries to finally complete a Ghostbusters kit. So I don't recommend it as a starter model because it's very difficult to execute, which is a shame. And it's difficult to execute because the kit is poorly designed. So that's something to stay away from. Now, what we had all over the table, the basic M4 Sherman tank kit. And as you know, people that are really into M4 Shermans, and the M4 Sherman is a whole thing you can study because they made a gajillion of them, and there were many different varieties, and there's lots of different detail variances. And this is the land of the rivet counters, are very into these. This kit is very poor from that respect. It's relatively old, but the fit is excellent. The instructions are pretty clear. I've had many students and staff build this kit and build this kit successfully. So this is a pretty good one to start with. It's still available, and you can get these. I buy them from Amazon or from Sprue Brothers. Sprue Brothers doesn't always have it in stock, but there's also eBay is another place you can get these. Excellent kit, lots of extra parts, lots of kind of detail parts, you know, for basically the equipment on the side, so like the backpacks and little crates on the back and things like that are all available. Excellent kit. This kit, I don't have a spare of it. This kit is also from Tamiya, and this is a late Sherman. This is a Sherman from the Israeli Army dating from the 1960s or 1970s. And again, this was an easy kit. The parts go together correctly. There's not, you don't have to sit there and keep filing a part over and over again to get it to fit. Really excellent kits to work with. The Batmobile kits. So the difficulty with these now is that they're basically out of production. And so now it's an eBay hunt to find them. I have one, and this is a 1960s, so this goes with this one right here. And these are great kits. They're quite heavy. The body is metal and pre-painted, and then all the details that you add are plastic. I believe this one did not have pre-painted Batman and Robin, but I believe the newer ones that you might find do have a pre-painted Batman and Robin. But that's actually part of the fun. I'm going to save the Warhammer stuff. So, I mean, here's actually a Warhammer tank. I'm going to save the Warhammer stuff for its own video because it's kind of its own genre. But the Warhammer projects are definitely fun. So, beginner kits. Let me clarify again. This M4 Sherman kit, we've built a lot of them for beginners, and I really do think they're a good beginner kit. And again, even if the student's not interested in tanks in general, think of it as skill building for plastic model building. Now, why do you want to bother getting good at plastic models? Plastic models kind of died in the aughts and the 90s. And what was happening there was the expense of producing a new kit was very high. What's happened is the cost to produce a new kit is getting lower and lower, and the quality is getting higher and higher, and so there's just a huge burst in activity. So I'll just go over some of the things. So people that are into 60s television, so this is a fairly large scale model of the Chariot from the Lost in Space series, which is, I always loved this. I didn't like the rest of the show, but this is something I definitely liked. Tamiya is still very big in the brand, and Tamiya kits can be a little expensive, but they're always pretty straightforward to assemble. Even if it's a complex kit like this one, Frankly, it's the engineering on the kits is brilliant, and they're a good way to go. Again, the more complex ones I just don't recommend as a beginner kit. Once they're later, you can tell 60s television stuff. So the flying sub from Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. Yeah, flying submarine, I know, that's crazy. Anyway, that's a great kit. These kits like this brand Edwards from Czechoslovakia, and they build excellent kits. They also build detail parts that you can add to your kits. Again, for advanced modelers. Lots of Tamiya stuff. If you have someone that wants to learn how to do figure painting, this particular kit from Tamiya is a really good one. It includes a bunch of figures that all have to get painted up, lots of little details. These kits, they're out of production, long out of production. They're tremendous toys. I have one over here that's been loved to death. And it's basically a little four-wheel drive. This used to be this dump truck. It's been severely battered. Again, loved to death. The Tamiya dinosaur kits, they're out of production, but boy, they are worth finding. We have one. This was a successful kit, and so this was actually made by our son Ian, and it builds up into a little diorama, and you can see there's a little guy here in a pith helmet, and to give you some scale. So these are in 1:35 scale, and the fun thing about 1:35 scale is that is the same scale that all the tank models are made in, which means that you could have dinosaurs and tanks together in a diorama if you wanted to. So all this new technology is finally getting applied to car models. So this is an interesting one. This is from a company that normally produces model tanks and military models, and this is a Ford F-350. It's also in a funny scale. So this is a scale that matches the tanks. I actually bought these so that people could see what does a regular pickup truck look like next to a tank, and so I have a model of that. What else? Oh, yeah. So you'll notice I have lots of Tamiya stuff, again, because the Tamiya kits are just kind of no-brainers. This is actually a relatively old kit from Tamiya, but it's still a very good one, and this is an early model Spitfire. This is another early kit from Tamiya. Now, when I say early, it means that this kit was actually first produced and marketed probably in the 1980s, which is making it relatively old compared to other kits. But Tamiya always did such a fine job that their kits are still good buys. They're good, solid foundation. So the point is that after doing a starter project, so this is somebody's starter project. This was their first kind of model kit, and they did some weathering on it and stuff like that. And once they've done one of these, they can then tackle the more complex kits. And then what a very natural progression is that they start to go, what if? So what if this airplane was with a dinosaur? What if? And they start making dioramas, and often they'll go to graphic art and do paintings of things. Anyway, these projects teach a lot of basic fundamental skills, and I personally love plastic models and love it when a student's interested in doing plastic models. And I think they're really worthwhile projects for students to do. I hope you found this interesting. Please leave any comments or questions in the comments below. And thank you very much. I'll see you soon.